From the very heart of the Vatican, a storm is raging. A storm so fierce that it threatens to tear apart one of the world's oldest and most revered institutions, the Catholic Church. Pope Leo XIV's recent sweeping reforms, hailed by some as revolutionary and condemned by others as dangerous, have sparked unprecedented turmoil. The question on everyone's lips is this: is the Vatican truly in flames? For centuries, the Church has stood as a symbol of tradition, stability, and unchanging faith. But now, those foundations are shaking. Pope Leo XIV, known for his boldness and unfiltered honesty, has pushed through reforms that are as radical as they are controversial. From liturgical changes to new approaches to doctrine, governance, and inclusion, nothing seems untouched. These reforms aim to modernize the Church and make it more accessible to a world that is rapidly evolving. But the price has been a wave of division, anger, and uncertainty like never before. Inside Vatican walls, tensions run high. Allies of the Pope praise his courage, seeing these reforms as a desperately needed breath of fresh air. They argue that the Church must evolve or risk becoming irrelevant, a relic of a bygone era. They celebrate Pope Leo XIV as a visionary leader, one who dares to confront the Church's failings head-on, calling for inclusivity, justice, and a renewed focus on serving the marginalized. But across the aisle, fierce opposition is mounting. Cardinals, bishops, and influential clergy loyal to tradition are sounding the alarm. They warn that the reforms undermine core teachings and threaten to fracture the unity of the Church. Some even whisper about schisms and a possible crisis of faith spreading among believers worldwide. The very fabric of Catholicism, they argue, is being unraveled in real time. This conflict isn't confined to secret meetings and quiet corridors. It has exploded into the public sphere. Media outlets around the world are ablaze with coverage, some framing Pope Leo XIV as a heroic reformer, others as a destabilizing force risking the Church's sacred heritage. Social media has become a battleground where Catholics young and old clash over what the future of their faith should look like. What exactly are these reforms that have ignited such a firestorm? They are comprehensive and far-reaching. Changes to the Mass and sacramental practices aim to simplify rituals and make worship more inclusive and engaging for modern congregations. Doctrinal stances on issues like gender roles, sexuality, and interfaith relations have been softened, sparking hope among progressives but outrage from conservatives. New governance models introduce lay people, including women, into decision-making roles historically reserved for clergy, a move hailed as revolutionary and condemned as heretical. The Pope's willingness to confront uncomfortable truths and admit past mistakes, from the Church's handling of scandals to its historical complicity in oppression, has been another flashpoint. His calls for transparency, accountability, and reconciliation have won praise but also fear. For many, this is a Church in crisis, struggling to hold itself together while trying to transform. Across the globe, Catholic communities are deeply affected. Some parishes have embraced the reforms enthusiastically, holding spirited discussions and welcoming newcomers who felt alienated before. Others have resisted fiercely, with protests, walkouts, and even threats to break away. Families and friendships are strained as debates about faith, identity, and loyalty become personal. What makes this situation so explosive is not just the content of the reforms, but the speed and manner in which they were implemented. Pope Leo XIV has moved decisively, bypassing some traditional channels and emphasizing urgency. Critics accuse him of authoritarianism, while supporters argue that bold action was necessary to shake the Church from inertia. Within the Vatican, this tension is palpable. Some high-ranking officials have resigned or been reassigned amid the chaos. Rumors swirl about factions plotting behind the scenes. The once serene halls now echo with whispered conflicts and urgent meetings. Internationally, governments and religious leaders watch closely. The Catholic Church's influence reaches far beyond faith. It shapes culture, politics, and diplomacy. The reforms and resulting turmoil have implications for millions, including global humanitarian efforts, interfaith dialogue, and moral leadership on issues like poverty and climate change. Amid this chaos, Pope Leo XIV remains resolute. In recent addresses, he has doubled down on his vision, urging unity through understanding and compassion. He calls on Catholics to embrace dialogue, resist fear, and move forward together. But even his appeals have done little to calm the storm. So, what happens next? Will the Vatican survive this unprecedented upheaval? Can Pope Leo XIV's reforms heal the Church, or will they deepen its divisions? The coming months and years will be critical. History will judge whether this moment was a bold step toward renewal or the beginning of a painful fracture. For believers and observers alike, the Vatican is watching, waiting, caught in flames of transformation, conflict, and hope. As the embers of conflict burn hotter, many faithful Catholics find themselves caught in the middle, torn between devotion to the Church they grew up in and a growing desire to see it transformed. Some weep in silence, praying for clarity. Others raise their voices in passionate pleas at rallies, parish meetings, and even online forums, demanding answers. The emotional toll is staggering. Lifelong believers who once felt secure in the rhythms of Mass now question what it means to be Catholic. Others who were once alienated from the Church are cautiously stepping back in, drawn by Pope Leo XIV's daring message of renewal. And this emotional tension isn't only within lay people, it's cutting straight through the clergy as well. Young priests fresh from seminary often embrace the Pope's message with vigor, inspired by the opportunity to build something new and more just. Meanwhile, seasoned clergy who have given their lives to the traditions of the Church feel betrayed, as if the very institution they've served is being dismantled from within. In hushed tones behind closed doors, some speak of resignation. Others, in more extreme corners, speak of resistance. In Rome, statues of saints stand watch. As these ancient debates surge with new fire, cardinals who once sat side by side in unity now refuse to speak to one another. Documents circulate, petitions are signed, and theological debates once kept in private are now airing before the entire world. And through it all, Pope Leo XIV stands unwavering, his face calm, his words deliberate, his actions unstoppable. He speaks often of the Gospels, of Christ's radical love, of his rejection of hypocrisy, of his embrace of the outcast and the forgotten. The Pope's argument is simple. Jesus challenged the establishment of his day, and now the Church must do the same if it is to follow him truly. But critics warn that interpreting the faith through modern ideals risks distorting sacred truth, turning divine mystery into mere ideology. The weight of history looms large over every move. This is the same Church that once faced down emperors, weathered the Reformation, survived schisms, wars, plagues, and revolutions. But never before has the threat of internal unraveling felt so dangerously close. And never before has the outside world been so deeply invested in watching the outcome. Global faith leaders, from Protestant pastors to imams and rabbis, are responding in turn. Some commend the Pope's courage, seeing it as a bridge toward interfaith understanding. Others express concern, fearing that a fractured Catholic Church will weaken global moral leadership at a time when unity is desperately needed. As humanity grapples with war, climate catastrophe, corruption, and moral confusion. And then there's the looming fear that no one dares to say too loudly, schism, a breaking apart of the body of Christ. The word alone is enough to make even the boldest theologians pause. Some whisper that factions are already forming, entire dioceses considering separation, underground councils plotting an alternative direction, rogue bishops defying the Pope's orders. It's happened before in history. Could it happen again? Yet amidst the fire and fury there are voices of calm. Ordinary Catholics, mothers, teachers, farmers, young people, who refuse to be pulled into the extremes. They hold prayer, vigils, led discussions, and quietly rebuild community in their own towns and cities.